Alrighty, hello everyone. I'd like to formally welcome everybody to today's session. We are so happy you're here. My name is Brianna Brown and I'm the Partner Operations Manager here at Wursta. Along with me is my colleague David Moore. He's the Director of Marketing at Wursta. And we have our counterparts at Signage, Gabrielle and Chris, who will be leading today's discussion. As you probably noticed, this session is being recorded. All registrants, anybody who's here, will receive a link to view it later this week. I know this is a long time to take out of your day, so if you miss things and need to come back, the recording will be with you. We also want to be interactive today, so feel free to unmute yourself or throw questions in the chat. We will be moderating the chat throughout the session as questions come in, and if we don't get to your question right away, we will be sure to address them at the end.
Awesome, thank you. So we will jump right in. I'll go ahead and introduce myself. I am one of today's speakers, Gabrielle MacDonald. And so I focus on Google Workspace. I have the honor of getting to work with Wursta on this and partner with them for their Google Workspace business. So I will be going over that part of the full Google solution today. And along with me is Chris Schoss, who I will let introduce himself.
Hey everybody, my name's Chris. Very similar to Gabrielle, I am very product focused, specifically on Chrome Enterprise and how that solution plays really well into businesses outside of the traditional education space, where that kind of solution found its footing. And yeah, we're excited to spend some time with you guys today. Hopefully treat you to some good coffee and just allow you to have all your questions answered so you can leave feeling like you have a good idea of what Google can do for your business.
Awesome. So I'll pitch it back to you.
Perfect. This event is being hosted by Wursta and sponsored by Signage. I do want to share a little bit about Wursta. Some of you, I can see, are existing customers of Wursta. Maybe you are not a customer of Wursta. Either way, I want to share a little bit about us before we get started. Wursta's mission is to help organizations maximize their use of the cloud. We work side by side with our clients to help our clients make good technology decisions and grow your business in ways that you wouldn't have been able to otherwise. This helps your organization develop cultures of continuous innovation powered by real-time collaboration that we all know and love. With that, I will turn it back over to the Signage team.
Thank you. So we are going to jump right into today's presentation, Chrome, Cloud, and Coffee. And before we really dive into what are these different products, what is Chrome, what is Google Workspace, what is the cloud, we all know what Coffee is already. I want to cover a little bit about why we're here, why any of this is important to begin with, and just a little bit of the state of the industry kind of information to set the stage for today. Obviously, probably to different extremes, we all experienced remote work last year, and we're kind of entering new territory now where people are moving from a fully remote work environment to this new hybrid environment. But during this time, there were some really interesting statistics that came out. One of them being that 35% of office workers, when fully in the office, they're spending less than 15 minutes outside every day. And when they're going outside, it's probably for some simple errand, like to walk to their car or to go drop something in the mailbox, something like that. And Google saw that that's probably an issue. That's not a good thing. We all need some sunshine. We need some real air. We need to be getting away from our desks. Another interesting fact that we saw is that work is no longer just a place where people are working, but it's an actual just space. It's the ability to work wherever you are, whether that is at a home office, in a traditional office setting, on the road using a hotspot, in a coffee shop, anywhere you could be. And Google did a study and they saw that an estimated 48% of workers are going to continue working remotely in this post-COVID world that we're working in. So it's super important that all of you have seamless workflows set up to be able to accommodate this type of working. We also saw in the past year, one way that work changed is that time we realized is very, very precious in a lot of different ways. we saw that 1 in 4 working parents is also a primary caregiver at this very moment. So the study was done only a couple months ago. This isn't even back in 2020. So there are still a lot of you that are doing an excellent job wearing both of those hats at once. And you guys need to be able to not have to worry about things that are trivial and shouldn't be taking up too much time. The last main thing that I wanted to hit before we dive into this is just the importance of human connection. Right now, we see that 1 in 3 coworkers feels disconnected from their colleagues, and your best work is just not going to be done. And all of your companies have your best interests in mind. They want you to feel connected, and that's where creativity happens. That's where innovation happens. That's how businesses drive forward, is when they are connected well, working together, able to collaborate, and feel like they're working together towards a common goal. So those are just some important statistics that I wanted to throw out there before we dive in to kind of show where we're at. We are moving from this fully remote environment to this new hybrid world. We're figuring it out. It still is new territory for a lot of us, but we are all in it together, and we are all kind of looking at those reprioritizations as we make business decisions moving forward. And Chris, I saw you raise your hand out if you had a question.
I super didn't mean to do that, but I will just kind of, set up today kind of the way the layout is going to go. So for everyone, just to let you know, today is kind of going to be a combination of pre-recorded content and live content with a couple of breaks in between that if you need to go and take care of something at the house, you're welcome to do that. But also there's going to be content there for the people that want to just sit at their computer and learn as much as you can. And so basically the way we've split it up is in 3 different sections. The first section being about Chrome OS, the second section being about Chrome Enterprise, and the third section being specific about Google Workspace. So those are pre-recorded content where we will be live in the chat, being able to kind of live answer any questions you have as the presentation is going on. It's because it kind of frees us up as subject matter experts to be able to help in real time. So please, if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat. There's also a option with Google Meet to go down to these fun little shapes in the bottom right of your screen. Click that, and there's a Q&A section where you can ask a question, and they'll kind of compile, and we'll go through those at the end and just make sure everyone's question is answered. So that being said, I didn't mean to raise my hand, but if you know me, I always have something to say. It might be bad, it might be good. So there we go.
Awesome. Thank you, Chris. And we are going to jump right into this first pre-recorded session. This is on the Chrome OS.
Hello and welcome to session 1 of Chrome, Cloud, and Coffee. We're your Google experts, Chris and Gabrielle, and we want you to sit back, enjoy your cup of coffee while we spend some time talking about the base building block of the Google solution within the enterprise space, and that is Chrome OS. So, Gabrielle, give us a history lesson, right? Take us back down memory lane. Tell us a little bit about where it all started.
Sure. Thank you, Chris. So Google started with the Google search engine that we all know and love and use today. And what they saw is that they could really harness this power that they are using for their incredible search engine into other facets. And that's where the Chrome browser came from. Another thing that we're probably all very familiar with, I know Chris and I are familiar with and use all the time.
So many tabs.
From Chrome browser, they were able to develop Chrome OS, which was very successful in schools. And Google gained up to 80% market share in schools today, which is absolutely incredible. This is really important for me as I used a lot of Chrome products in college. And what I saw was that was able to translate into my work life. And Google strategically did that. They made such a good base in the school industry that it's now coming into the business industry as young professionals are entering the workforce with such a knowingness of Google and a desire to use Google solutions. And they're seeing that just as they could harness the power of their Chrome OS in schools, the same thing can go for businesses to make businesses work even better and more efficiently today. So Chris, how about we start off talking about Chrome OS with you giving us just some of the basics of what it is.
Yeah, so, I think Google with Chrome OS, they didn't try to reinvent the wheel, right? They really used a lot of the powers that made the search engine really successful. Mainly, automated intelligence, artificial intelligence, and machine learning, right? These are two things that are used every single day through the search engine, and really those things are integrated into Chrome OS, and a big reason why it's successful.
Yeah, can you give us an example of what that looks like?
Yeah, okay, so think about it this way. Think about it feels amazing outside and I want to buy a bike, right? So I live in a city. I want to buy a bike because I'm trying to get some miles and I'm trying to get some road under the tires, but I'm getting so many miles on that bike that I blow a tire, right? Okay. So clearly I'm going to look up in the Google search engine tire shop, all right? So I'm going to look that up and it's going to show me, first off, it's going to show me automobile places. But that's not going to help me. If I go to an automobile repair shop, they're probably not going to have a bicycle tire, right? So I'm going to table it. I'm going to just not worry about it. And that night, I'm going to go out to eat with my friends. I'm going to use Google Maps. And in Google Maps, I'm going to ask for driving directions to my favorite restaurant so I can hang out with my friends. Now, what this machine learning does is it takes the information that you give it in order to make a clearer picture of what you need, right? So that being said, Google Maps knows I'm driving somewhere, so it's going to make the connection that I don't need a car tire. So then the next day, when I search up tire repair shops, instead of bringing me up car repair places, it's going to bring me a bicycle place. Because also what it's going to then see is in the past, when I was searching for the perfect bicycle in Google, it's going to remember that, right? So as you give it data, it's going to learn to make you a more tailored and perfect experience that works for you.
That is actually really cool. And that was an excellent example. Thank you so much for that. So I have another question for you. When it comes to businesses, why would they want to make any of these changes by moving to Chrome OS? What are some of the benefits there?
Yeah, so I think what we're seeing in technology and in the business sector is we're seeing a paradigm shift, right? So traditionally, this is the way that an IT professional in a business space has everything set up. They have devices that they need to image and deploy to their workforce, right? And here's what an IT professional usually does. They update virus definitions, they update software, they're going to patch the OS, the operating system, they're going to upgrade the hardware when it breaks, and they're also going to have to back up data, right? This is a cycle that they're constantly having to worry about and constantly having to make sure is working so their workforce is always ready to go. The thing about Chrome OS is it takes all this artificial intelligence and machine learning and does a lot of those things for you. So you IT professionals don't have to worry about doing this laborious activity over and over again, and you can focus on thinking of innovative technologies that help your business be more efficient. And so I think that's where Chrome OS goes in, and that's really where Chrome OS strengths are addressing what traditionally have been weaknesses in the IT landscape.
I love that a lot. Thank you for sharing that background. Can you, I know you just mentioned that's what some of the strengths are. Can you expand a little bit more on the strengths of Chrome OS?
Yeah, so Chrome OS is in 4 pillars. The strengths are in 4 pillars. 1, speed. 2, security. 3, shareability. And 4, simplicity, right? All S's make sense. 4 S's, easy to remember. So we'll start with speed. So with a traditional device, if you get a device, a traditional device out of a box and you're trying to image that device, it usually takes about 3 hours, right? On average, it takes about 3.5 hours. With a Chromebook, you're literally going to open that device, enroll it, and it'll be up and going within 3 minutes, right? So
incredible.
I think you could say 3 hours versus 3 minutes, quite the difference, right? So already you're starting quicker, and not only at the beginning of the device, the deployment is faster, but also through the life of the device. So Chrome and Google, one thing they really pride themselves on is making really lean devices. And what I mean by that is think about your traditional device. I know I used to have an old laptop and I would put all my music on it, all my pictures on it, all my files on it. And 5 years into having that device, it was running like a snail, right? Like it would literally crash when I would load it up because I had just put so much fluff in it, so much stuff on that device that its operating system couldn't even function properly. So the cool thing about Chrome OS is they don't add a lot of those things, right? They're essentially what's called it's a device that allows you to access the things you need to and is powered by the cloud, right? All these Chrome OS devices were designed with the cloud in mind so that you don't have all these things bogging down your device. And also, for instance,
4 years ago, Chrome OS devices booted up in 10 seconds or less. So from power off to turning the power button on, you would be working on that device in 10 seconds or less. Impressive, right? That's super fast. Already faster than traditional devices. In the past 3 years, those devices have gone from 10 seconds or less to 6 seconds or less. Right? So that means
crazy.
a Chromebook that you bought 3 years ago has gotten actually faster over time. Right? And traditional devices don't do that. They get slower over time. And I just think that's such a cool thing.
Is that where verified boot comes into play?
Yeah, that's a great point. So not only does this device boot up in 6 seconds or less, but it also has a program called Verified Boot. And basically what that's going to do is it's going to compare the operating systems and make sure that you're in the most up-to-date operating system and that your operating system is secure with no malware, no threats, external threats on it. And that's all going to happen in 6 seconds or less. And here's the deal. If you do have something that's corrupt, it's going to restore it to a previous version and you're never even going to know about it. Right, so traditionally, if you logged into something and say you had a virus or something was where it wasn't supposed to be on your device, you had to take that to the IT professional. They had to address it. They had to update the virus definition, so on and so forth. The Chrome OS does that for you. You don't even have to worry about it. It's amazing. The second pillar, security. So that's a lot of speed. Hopefully that sold you, right? Because time is money. So if you can save your company time, you're going to make a lot more money. You're going to be a lot more lean with your costs, a lot more efficient with your costs. The next thing is security. Google is huge on security. So one thing to know is Google actually is the largest server manufacturer in the world. And they're all internal. They're all proprietary, right? So Google has massive server infrastructure. If you think about Google's apps, their system of apps, they have over 9 apps with 1 billion users, right? So they have a secure network. 1 billion users is 1/7 of the world. Right? But that's incredible. That's unbelievable that this many people are using that. And because of that, they have to have a very secure infrastructure. So these Chrome OS devices are no different. Every 6 weeks, they're going to get an automatic update, right? So I know you have been on a traditional device and you've got the notification in your bottom right-hand corner to restart now for an update. And you don't know if you're going to restart and it's going to take 30 seconds or it's going to take 2 hours, right? And downtime is money lost. Downtime is something that
remind me later, Cliff.
Yes, remind me tomorrow. I was the king. I would be remind me tomorrow for 3 months, right? Until finally I would do it. And sure enough, it would take 4 hours and I would be without a device for that long. So these things happen automatically and these things happen in the background is the cool thing about these updates.
So I've heard that Google has 2 operating systems going at the same time. Can you tell us a little bit more about how that works?
Yeah, that's a great point. See, with these operating systems, when I say these updates happen in the background, here's the way it works. At all times, there are 2 operating systems running on a Chrome OS device. You have the operating system running that you are working on, the one that you're typing emails, have all your apps on, and then you have one in the background. Now, the cool thing about this is whenever an update comes along every 6 weeks or whenever there's some kind of mandatory security patch that comes out, the operating system in the background is going to receive that update from Google, right? And so then the next time that you log into that device, what's going to happen is these operating systems are going to switch places. And now you're operating on the most secure, up-to-date version. And guess what? That happens in that thing that we talked about earlier, verified boot, 6 seconds or less. So time, secure. These devices are incredibly lean, incredibly business-minded to be able to work in your environment. And the next 2, I think, are really cool as well, shareability and simplicity. And I think that's something, Gabrielle, with your experience using these devices firsthand, I think you can speak a lot to just how simple these devices are, how easily shared these devices are.
Yeah, those are 2 words that could not describe the devices better. When it comes to shareability, I know that if I forgot my device or if my device died and I need to log into somebody else's, I can log in with my credentials and my bookmarks are going to be saved and it's going to be my entire setup that I have saved, even though I'm not on my original device. So that's really helpful when you are pressed for time and need to get something done or just not in the ideal scenario and don't have your own Chromebook there to work on. Very easily shared, have always been truly from the start. And then simplicity is another one that I'm very thankful for because I have had plenty of devices in the past that do have a lot of fluff on them that does make them slower, where I just felt like I wanted to go on and delete all these applications from the beginning because I don't even know what they do. And Google does an incredible job at making simple devices so that your use of the device is efficient, the time that you spend on your device is efficient, and you really are just getting exactly what you need curated for your specific purposes. So they keep them very simple, which keeps the device fast and shareable as well. If there's too much fluff on there, you wouldn't be able to do these different login credentials over time. So very simple, very shareable, and those are two of my favorite things about the devices for sure.
Yeah, like we said before, Google doesn't try to reinvent the wheel, right? They're making processes that you've done for years easier, right?
Yeah.
Because they believe that they want you to be as efficient and cost efficient as possible, right? And so this solution is not something that is so out of nowhere. It's really just making strengths upon the weaknesses that the IT industry has experienced for years. And it's an amazing solution that doesn't just work in schools. We're seeing more and more businesses adopt these solutions and implement these because of how efficient these devices are, how much time they're saving, how cost efficient these devices are, how secure these devices are. A ton of reasons why you need to make the switch to Chrome OS, and a ton of reasons why Chrome OS will work in your environment. Another thing is the ease of apps, right? I think one of the biggest things that people talk about is, how do I access apps on a Chromebook? I thought the only thing you could do is access the internet. While that may have used to been true, Google is very quickly eliminating every excuse you have to not use a Chromebook. And what I mean by this is this. There are three main ways that you access apps on a Chromebook. One is through the web browser, right? If you can access a web app, you can access it on a Chromebook. The second is the Google Play Store. A couple years ago, Google had full integration with its Google Play Store with millions and millions of applications. If you can find it on the Google Play Store, you can use it on a Chromebook. And the third is Vdi Solutions Virtualization. Chromebooks actually can run Parallels and run a Windows desktop, right? So any of these heavy Windows applications, if you're a Microsoft 365 house and you just need your Windows applications, you can run Parallels. You can download the Google Play Store app. There are so many options available. So please don't let the idea that these Chromebooks won't fit into my infrastructure dissuade you from having the conversation. Because I'm willing to bet when you really drill down to the applications that your customers use, that there's probably a really good chance that these devices will work for you. So that being said, one thing that we're going to do that's actually going to be pretty cool is we are going to go through a little bit of a role-playing scenario called Customer of the Week, where Gabrielle is going to be our customer and I am going to be your service rep, and we are going to kind of work through a scenario so you can see in real time what it looks like to have some of these questions that maybe you have answered. So we hope you enjoy it. Check this out. Hey Jane, thanks for calling. My name is John, and I'm here to help you maybe figure out a technology solution that'll work for you and your company. I've heard a little bit about what's going on, but if you could kind of just paint me just a clear picture of what's happening at your company, I'd love to be of assistance. Jane, I think you're muted.
Oh man, I'm not used to these video calls. That's my bad.
No problem. I do the same thing. From all these different video conferencing platforms, I'm always messing with all my settings and everything. But anyway, so Jane, tell me a little bit about your situation. What we got going on?
Yeah, thanks, John. So I am the CIO of an enterprise company. We have about 500 employees. And I think that where we're at is fine, but we're looking for new devices and everybody's telling me we need something new. They're tired of what we have. And so I'm just trying to see some other options out right now.
Okay, so looking for new devices specifically, what kind of problems are you having with your devices? Like, why do you need to make the change?
So I've been told we're on legacy devices and that we need to update to some newer technology. There are complaints of them just being slow. They're really expensive when we need to replace the devices. But I like where we are today because everything works fine. Our applications work fine. And I think that we'll be okay. But I've just been told that we're really slow and need to update our technology to something that works a little bit smarter and faster.
Okay, well, let me ask you this, Jane. Have you ever thought about using Chromebooks in your company?
Like my kid has?
Yes, your kid probably does have a Chromebook, but Chromebooks, and more specifically the Chrome OS solution, is actually a growing enterprise solution.
Really?
Yeah, so let me kind of walk you through it a little bit. So you have your traditional devices, right? And your IT professionals are going through all these loops to update the virus definitions to make sure that devices are imaged well, and all this stuff takes a lot of time, right? So what Google's done through the Chrome OS solution is kind of innovated this solution to really capitalize on where traditional devices kind of are weak, right, and be able to be a strength. So, for instance, one of those things is speed, right? They want to make sure these devices are quick. So, in your case of wanting to replace devices, not only are Chromebooks a more cost-efficient route to go, but those devices in your traditional device, if you were to get one, buy one, and have to image it for your company, it's going to take probably around 3.5 hours, which is a lot of time, right?
Yeah.
Versus a Chrome device, if you're able to get that, it would happen in 3 minutes. It's very quick, very simple, right? So yeah, 3 minutes, very quick, right out of the box, 3 minutes. And so that one would make it faster. Two, these devices actually get faster over time because they're more of a lean device, right? So, probably what you have is all your applications, your employees are adding their personal stuff on these devices. So they're getting really clogged up, and it's probably a big reason why you're having to replace so many devices. Employees are coming to you because their device is getting too slow. It can't do what they do on the day to day. Where really Chrome devices, the way they work is being really efficient, and they actually get faster over time. So I think that's probably something that would interest you if you wanted to think about switching to Chromebooks and the Chrome OS solution.
Wow, I really didn't know that Chrome could do all of that. I just thought it was good for schools, but I didn't know it could do all of that for business as well.
Yeah, it's really a cool thing that Google has done because really, you talk about it being a kid's device. Really, that's where they planted their eggs, right? They planted their seeds in the schools to now we're seeing a lot of professionals come into the workforce. And if you have young professionals in your workplace, they're probably using and wanting to use Google solutions, right? Just because what they've used their entire lives. So it's a really cool solution, and it's something that I really think can save your company a lot of money and be a solution that would really work for you guys. Because let me ask you this, what kind of apps are y'all using? Do y'all use any kind of legacy apps as well?
So we use Microsoft 365 today, as well as some other applications that we need for our internal systems. Would those be able to work on a Chromebook? We really like what we're using right now.
Yeah, so Google actually takes a different route than most people. So if you have your other vendors, what they're really going to try to do is kind of lock you into their ecosystem, right? Where none of their applications work with other things, so on and so forth. But with Google, they kind of like to play well with others. What I mean by that is they're very quickly trying to eliminate every excuse to not use a Chrome device. And so, for instance, with Office 365, you can sync up through single sign-on your Active Directory Office 365 through Chrome OS, through Chromebooks, right?
Wow.
So it can just automatically just plug and play into your ecosystem, into your infrastructure you have right now. And not only that, but all these Windows applications, I mean, if they have a web browser, they can access their Outlook, or they can download through the Google Play Store, they can download Microsoft applications. And if that isn't enough, Chromebooks can actually run virtual desktops, and through a program called Parallels, they can run a Windows desktop. So you can have the exact same environment you have right now on a more cost-efficient device, a faster device, a device that works easier in the hands of people, a very simple device, and devices that can be shared. So I really think this is a great solution that you should think about, that you can go before your executives at your company. I can work together to kind of get a pitch going to where you can go before them and really show the value in just it being efficient and workflow wise, but also cost efficient.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. This actually sounds really good for us, which I was not expecting. Some of our newer hires suggested that I talk to you today, and I didn't know that I was going to find out so many good things about how it could actually help our company. So thank you so much.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you, Jane. And like I said, let's continue this conversation. Let's really dig in a little deeper and figure out what actually this solution can do for you and your.
I would love that.
All right, I'll talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.
Love it. Cool. Well, hey, that was our first section on Chrome OS. Juliana, I love your comment. Got me curious. All innovation starts with curiosity. All right. Come on, guys. We work in tech here. You know what I mean? We got to make it sound good. But no, thanks once again for being able to be a part of this. We're gonna spend some time now. If you need to take a break, need to go take care of something at home, please do that. I know this is a long meeting, so don't feel like we're trying to monopolize your time, that you have to be sitting here the entire time. This is all recorded, all these resources we're going to have for you afterwards, because we want to make all this information as accessible as possible for you guys, right? So that's our goal here. So that being said, we're going to do a little activity. We're going to go ahead and get David to set up some breakout rooms, and we're going to have a question. It's completely hypothetical. It's a question that, basically, if this happens, what would you do as technology professionals at your company? And here's the question. A global pandemic breaks out all over the world, causing worldwide quarantines. Your company needs to move your entire workforce from in-office to work from home in 1 week. What do you do? Completely hypothetical, I know, but this is something that we would love to talk to you guys about. How was COVID-19 for your workforce, right? I mean, we never want to make light of how serious the pandemic has been in general, but from a completely business standpoint, making technology decisions for your organization, how did you handle that? What kind of things did you have to do? How did you adapt? Things like that. So we would love to talk with you about how you handle that in these breakout rooms. So go ahead and click join, and in about 5 minutes we'll come back to the big.
And folks, please let me know if anybody's having issues trying to join their breakout room. All right, Gabrielle, would you like me to close the breakout rooms?
Yes, you can close them.
Fantastic.
And then once Chris joins back, he's actually going to share his screen. I am working from a home, but it's not my home, and I'm having a couple difficulties right now. So I'm going to let him run with it from here.
It's always fun getting used to new environments.
It is always fun. We love technology when it works for us. Hopefully, there they are. Oh, Chris, you are muted.
I did it.
Hold a Jane.
I'm telling my my room that countdown at the top. I don't know if it's the fact that it's like red. It's like super red and intimidating. My anxiety level seeing like a countdown. I'm like, talk faster, talk faster, talk faster. But no, hopefully that was helpful. Hopefully that was beneficial for everybody. You got to hear a little bit about maybe some others' experiences with something that no one could be prepared for. Right? There's no way you can do that at the beginning. But what we do want to present to you now is, we live in a world where now it really does feel like in technology, we need to expect the unexpected, right? And being able to be digitally prepared for anything is huge. So even though it might mean spending a little bit more upfront, it's going to save you a lot of time and a lot of hassle. We talked with Darren and with Debbie. I talked with them in my breakout room, and they just talked about a lot of challenges of going from 2 locations to then having 80 individual locations that you as an IT professional have to oversee. So do you have the things set in place to make that easier when it happens? And by no means do I want to say that anything like this is ever going to happen again. I really hope it doesn't. But as technology professionals and as executives in companies, those are things that you need to think for to kind of mitigate that risk that possibly could happen in the future. And that's why really what we're talking about, this Chrome OS solution, this Chrome Enterprise solution that is fully built with the cloud in mind, is something that really takes in heart working from anywhere, right? It was made with that heart behind it, but really what we see is it kind of transitions to be able to help an organization work fully remote, help an organization work in a hybrid state of work. So really have that in the back of your mind, have that kind of working through this idea of preparedness. I don't even know if that's an actual word. It sounded good in my mind, but being prepared for whatever's next in your technology, because this has taught us anything, is that anything could happen, even things that we never thought would, right? So as technology professionals, we want to help you have the tools and the resources to be able to have what you need. So that being said, a couple of things. We're about to jump into session 2, which just focuses all about Chrome Enterprise. I'm not going to give it away right now, but basically I'll give you the very short what is Chrome Enterprise. It is the key, the license that unlocks the full potential of a Chrome OS device. So any device that runs the Chrome operating system. So it's something you pair with it that's going to be able to basically you manage your entire fleet of devices from one pane of glass. It's a great solution. We're about to jump into that. Please, if you have any questions, the last thing we want is for you to leave here with any questions. We want to make sure we do our due diligence to make sure you have any questions answered, that you have all the information you need to succeed. Even if you don't do a Google adoption or talk about Chrome solutions, we want you to know what this solution has to offer and how it can benefit your company. So anything, you can put it in the chat. You can go to those 3 fun little shapes in the bottom right, go to Q&A, drop one, and we'll answer it at the end. Really, however you're comfortable, we would love to interact with you to be able to make sure your question is answered. But that being said, I'm actually going to take over the presentation because Gabrielle is having some battery life issues. Another fun thing with working from home, if you have a charger that kind of just breaks on you, you got to figure it out, right? So another thing, and I will say I'm actually trying to share this, but it says unable to play video, error. That is never a good thing. Hold, please. Let me see what exactly is going on here. I might need a second. Let me find the link. I also have this video on my computer, so if need be, I will do that, but hopefully I'll be able to get it to where it is working.
I can try sharing it as well if you'd like it
I was
on my
gonna
end.
say, mine's
Okay.
able to play.
Perfect. Emily, if you want to run with that, or David, whoever wants to, that would be
Emily,
helpful.
go ahead.
So this, I'm working on a Lenovo ThinkPad, not to throw anyone under the bus, but I mean.
Great. Emily, were you going to present, or would you like me to?
Yeah, it's loading. 1 second.
Perfect.
Loading up. In this video, it's about the same time, but the cool thing about it is with all these videos, we've included this idea of customer of the week, right? Where it feels very cheesy and very, funny to me watching it, but hopefully this really is, like I said in the chat, frequently asked questions we get every single day about the solution. So just kind of played out in front of you guys so you can see it.
Okay.
So, and it should be slide 9, Emily.
Great.
All right, everyone enjoy.
I'm just still doing the circle of death on your end. Oh no.
This is the beautiful human error in not even human error, just technology challenges, right? I mean, this is kind of what we were talking about in general.
Okay.
Oh, there we go. Well, hey, and welcome to the third installment of Chrome Cloud and Coffee. As you can see, my coffee is dwindling, and so
Is this the right one?
slide, I think we need to be on slide 9.
Oh, sorry about that.
No worries, no worries. You get a sneak peek. I open up saying that's slide 3. But no, Barry, completely true. I'm a fake Barry. No, I'm just kidding. Really, our company as a total is an Office 365 company. And so my device is a Lenovo ThinkPad, and I was telling my breakout room, it seriously bricks up on me once a week. There is once a week where everything just stops working. Why? I don't know. If you look through my downloads, I probably got PDFs on PDFs, just gigabytes full of PDFs. So that's probably why. But no, I promise I'm not a complete hoax. I do have a Pixelbook. This is a Google manufactured device, right? I have it. As you can see, I am not working off of it right now because it is clearly closed down. But I do have a Google device.
Pixelbooks are great until you break your charger, and then I promise my Pixelbook is working fine. This is me and my charger having an issue. Yeah.
Okay, this says slide 9, so I think we're good. Sorry about that.
I think we're good to go. No worries.
Hello, and welcome back to session 2 of Chrome Cloud and Coffee. So Chris, we've talked a lot about Chrome OS. Can you tell us a little bit more about what exactly Chrome Enterprise is and how that works with Chrome OS?
Yeah, so Chrome Enterprise is basically a solution that works right with Chrome OS that Google really created to be the premier solution to manage Chrome OS devices. And so what I mean by that, if you think about it, Chrome OS is basically your engine that's pushing you forward. But what Chrome Enterprise is all the tools, and it's the key that unlocks the true potential of your Chrome OS devices. And so on a very, very high level, what Chrome OS is, or Chrome Enterprise is basically a device management software. It's going to allow you from one pane of glass to manage a fleet from 1 to 1,000 different Chrome OS devices from one place, right? And that one place is something called the Google Admin Console. You can push out policies. You can do all kind of things through this place, this gold mine, the Google Admin Console. And so you'll hear us talking a lot about that today.
Yeah, so you've mentioned the Admin Console a couple times already. Can you tell us a little bit more, like deeper dive into what is available through the Google Admin Console?
Yeah, so similar to its name, it's the admin console. And basically the way it works from the day-to-day is someone at your company is going to basically set up an administrator, right, an admin, to be able to go into that console, to be able to set configurations, to be able to work inside of that to make your guys' IT infrastructure and your workflow work for your company. So for instance, that admin can go in there, they can assign things called organizational units. So if your marketing department has different applications and needs different things than your sales department, you just set up another organizational unit. Say if you hire someone new and you need to onboard them with their devices instead of the typical imaging that takes forever, you just drag and drop someone that got hired into the marketing program, drag and drop that device into that organizational unit, automatically adopts all of these things. It's also where you're going to handle your billing, right? Like all your things. If you have questions about the number of license you have, if you know you want to onboard, 20 new employees this next quarter, you can go ahead and add those up and get those licenses waiting in the admin console. You also have access to Google support right from your admin console, 24/7 support, which is a really cool feature that a lot of people I think take for granted and don't utilize a lot. And other than that, it's where you're going to push out all your apps and extensions, right? So no matter all the apps that we talked about in the Chrome OS video about talking about how you can do apps from either the web app, you can do apps from the Google Play Store, you can do apps from virtualization. This is where if you want a Chromebook to open up to Outlook.com web app opened on that device because you're a Microsoft 365 company, you can do that here. You can have it or Microsoft Outlook already pre-downloaded from the Google Play Store on each of these devices, right? There's a lot of flexibility you can do to really tailor your environment to what you need it to be the most productive and efficient for your workforce. But one thing I really want to do is I want to take a second and I want to throw it to this video that I think is just a really helpful look into the admin console. It's a video that Google has made. Just a quick tour, about 2.5 minute tour around the admin console. So check this out.
In this demo, you'll learn about navigating the Chrome admin console and features. Let's get started. First, select Devices to view the list of devices that you've enrolled into the domain. You can see details like when the device was enrolled or when the last policy sync occurred. Now, let's drill down into more device details. In this view, you can see information such as the version of Chrome OS that's installed. You can also see a list of the recent users who have logged into the device. At left, you can see a list of actions to take, like disabling the device. That's very useful if a device has been lost or stolen. The deprovision action removes enterprise policies from the device, which comes in handy if you're retiring a device from your fleet. When we go back to devices, we see there's a drop-down menu you can use to quickly switch between different sections of the admin console. The Apps and Extensions page lets administrators select apps that can be installed or blocked. The admin console supports many apps, including Chrome apps, extensions, Android apps, and progressive web apps. To add an app, hover over the plus symbol and choose one of the available options. You have the option of adding apps from the Chrome Web Store, Google Play, or Chrome app, or you can add them by extension ID or URL. Let's go ahead and choose the Chrome Web Store. Search for Slack, then choose the application. Here you see that you have the option to set an installation policy. This is commonly used to force install an app without requiring user interaction. If you navigate to Device Settings, you can see that the first option enforces re-enrollment if a device has been power washed or reset. This way, you can make sure that the device will be re-enrolled into your domain and that all policies will be enforced. Let's use the search option to find the update settings. Updates are automatically applied with Chrome OS. You have flexibility in how updates are deployed and applied. For example, you can pin a specific version or schedule a rollout plan. Let's navigate to the User and Browser setting. Use the search option to quickly navigate to SSO settings. You can configure Chrome OS to leverage a third-party identity provider. This lets you set up single sign-on and user provisioning. If we navigate to the network settings, you see that administrators can configure network settings such as Wi-Fi and VPN. In addition, administrators can configure these settings to auto-connect to specific networks and also restrict which networks are allowed. To learn more, visit the Google Chrome Help Center.
So Chris, what are some of the policies that you see being used the most within the admin console?
Yeah, definitely. That's a great question. So I think, one of the things that we see is
it has over 220 plus policies that you can enforce to these devices. But really, we see a list of kind of best practices. We see some things that a lot of people use. These things like automatic connection to Wi-Fi networks, right? You can go ahead and put in credentials to all these devices so that anytime they're on your Wi-Fi network, these Chrome OS devices automatically connect, right? Easy things like that, quality of life, things like that. Some other things they can do is there's a really cool feature called Manage Guest Session. So this is one thing we see where there's a lot of shared devices, right? So if, say, you have temporary workers or people that come in outside of your organization, or if your organization has volunteers, right? Any kind of thing where maybe you don't need to have a one-to-one ratio of devices to users, you can have a fleet of devices that can be used by anybody. You can set up something called Manage Guest Session. And basically that essentially means this. It means that device, you can have someone come in and log in as a guest, do whatever they need to do on that device. You can also put certain applications that you know these managed guests are going to need. And then afterwards, once they log out, it's going to wipe the entire device, right? So it's running what's called an ephemeral mode. So it doesn't save any information. So even if this person were to log on to their bank account and for some reason save their password, that's going to be completely gone when they lose that device, when they put that device back, and when they log out. So it's a really great solution for shared devices. Another one is single app kiosk mode. So this right here is kind of the reason we saw one of the biggest rises in the education field, because single app kiosk mode, they were using it for testing, right? So as soon as you open that device, it's going to be logged into a test application and you cannot access anything else. So in the same way, we see a lot of this in the digital signage realm. This is a really big play in digital signage because you can basically set up whatever content hosting app you use for your digital signage. You can set that up and it cannot be changed out of there unless someone from the admin console changes it. As soon as that device boots up, it's going to start running that application. A lot of people do like touch kiosks inside stores and outside retail environments. There's a lot of really awesome use cases that you can use for just a single application that you can use that are really helpful with Chrome Enterprise.
Digital signage seems like a great use case for Chrome Enterprise, like you just said. What are some other areas where you're seeing growth in this solution?
Yeah, definitely. Digital signage is definitely one. We see a lot of companies use it as a digital signage option because of that single app kiosk mode. A huge use case. Other than that, remote work, right? That's something that the world has seen a huge rise in. And I think with deploying remote workforces and deskless workers, this is a solution that is very needed. You need something that's fast, efficient, and you need something that's hands off. And so that's something that we really see a lot of, is a lot of remote workforces managing their devices like this because they don't need to be as hands-on as they would with a legacy device. Healthcare is a place that we see this a lot. For one of the reasons is nurses station, right? We talked about shared devices earlier. So having these devices in a nurses station where you have, shift 1, shift 2, shift 3, they all need access to the same applications, but they all don't need their own device, right? So they can come into a rolling cart, have a nurses station, even using these for patient things. So if they need to contact their loved ones, do video conferencing, we're seeing a lot of rise in healthcare. And even, clearly across the board, all these things I'm about to say, you have your back-end workers, right? Your finance department, your people that are plugging away with organization tasks. These devices are great for that. So in the same way, in the finance world, you have those level employees that are able to do those things in healthcare. I know I just said finance, but I'm in healthcare. Another one is retail. I think, whenever I think about retail, I always think in my mind of walking through a mall and you see some kind of screen that's gone wrong. It needs a Windows update, right? And it just looks like the place has been like broken into. I'm probably not going to walk into that store if they don't have their digital signage or, their digital presence within their store working right. Because clearly it just looks like, I don't know if I trust them with my money if they can't even get their technology working right. So retail is a huge space, whether it be devices that are held in hands that handle their POS systems, whether it be back-end, accounting software. We see these devices be a really lean way because these devices are really good at being on the move. And in retail, you got a lot of hands-on devices. You got them moving a lot of different ways a lot of times. And so these devices are cost efficient enough to fit that need, as well as flexible enough with the software and the Chrome Enterprise license to be able to mold to whatever you need it to be. Another one is government. We talked about this a lot in Chrome OS, but the great thing about these devices is they're very secure. The next one I'm going to talk about is financial services. So those two go hand in hand. Government and financial services, they have information that they need secure. And who better to trust than the place that has over 9 apps with 1 billion users keeping all that information safe, right? And so there are other options we have to take that even a step further with, two-factor authentication, all these different things that you can enforce to make sure your devices are staying secure, but also ways for you to be able to monitor security. I think that, this device, you can spin it 1,000 different ways. It is very versatile. It's very cost efficient. It's very flexible. And so I think it is something that you pair a Chrome OS device with the Chrome Enterprise license, it really does unlock the potential and allow you to open up 1,000 different doors to take this device. And I guarantee you, if you get down to the nitty gritty, you would see that this device probably has a really good play in your organization. So that being said, we're actually going to do a little role play. We're going to move into a customer of the week where me, John, and Jane right here are going to walk out what it looks like for a company to actually plan to make the transition to Chrome Enterprise. What does it look like actually on paper? How much money are they going to save? What does it look like to make the move? Because I think that is, the hardest thing. You might be like, oh, this sounds like a great solution. I'm really interested. But man, what's it going to take to actually do it, right? What's it going to take to actually implement it? And so hopefully this will give you a little insight to what it looks like through a little hypothetical situation that we're going to play out. So we hope you enjoy. And if you have any questions, please let us know. Hey, Jane, how's it going?
Hey, John, I'm doing great. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing well. Can't complain. Well, hey, I'm glad we're able to catch back up. I know last time we talked about Chrome OS and some of the different ways that it could maybe help benefit your company and be a change worth looking into. Kind of where our conversation's at with that right now.
Yeah, so we're definitely interested in making that transition over to using Chrome within our business. I've been able to pitch a lot of the value to our company and the executives, and they're all really on board and excited. The one hang-up we still have definitely with our executives is going to be cost and what this investment really looks like for us. So we're just kind of trying to put some monetary value to all of this now. If you can help me bring that conversation around to our executive team.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, any change is always hard, right? It's never an easy change, but also in an organization of your size, right, it takes even longer to change. So for this executive team, they want to make sure it's worth it, right? Monetary, investment, all these different reasons they want to make sure. So yeah, we can definitely talk that today. And actually, we have a tool called the Chromebook Total Cost of Ownership Calculator, and it's specific for enterprise. And basically what it is, it's kind of like a questionnaire that if you want to, we can just walk through, you give me some information, it'll crunch some numbers for you, and we'll be able to kind of see a rough approximation of maybe where you're in. You can take that before your exec team.
Yeah, that sounds great. Okay,
cool. Well, let me go ahead and pull that up. All right, so like I said, I'm just going to ask you a couple questions, super easy, simple, and don't feel like you have to divulge every piece of information about your company. Just some approximations would be good to help us kind of go through this. So to start, you're in the United States, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and remind me the size of your organization. I can't exactly remember.
We have 500 employees.
500. Okay, perfect. Perfect. All right. And what is the approximate annual revenue of your organization?
About 25 million.
Okay.
About 50K per employee.
That's awesome. Congrats on being a part of a successful organization. That's always good to hear. Okay. So what percentage of your organization's total revenue is tied to operations that rely on Chromebooks or PCs?
I would say 80%.
80. Okay. Awesome, 80%. And quick break in our little role play exercise customer of the week. I am Chris again, no longer John. To give you a little look inside the curtain of why we chose this 80%. A couple of years ago, Google did a study with Wursta. And what they sought to look and find in the study is they wanted to see how many of the global frontline workers are using only applications that are found in the cloud, right? That are using web apps for their daily lives and their workflow. And what they realized is 80% of the global workforce are what we call cloud workers, deskless workers, right? So think about that in how it pertains to your business. If 80% of your company is only using web apps and things they can access on the internet, Why are you spending so much time on legacy devices with i9s and 64 gigs of RAM and all these other bells and whistles when they're really checking the internet, right? So it's just food for thought, something to think about. 80%, big number. So that being said, we'll get back to John and Jane. 80%, yeah, that's kind of industry standard, something that we see, Jane, of just how many people actually use these devices and are on them every single day. So, you know, kind of talking about those devices, how many frontline PCs are you looking to replace with Chromebooks?
So we're thinking of doing a slow transition. So we want to start with half of our employees, which would be 250.
Okay, yeah, super smart. You know, I think that takes the edge off a little bit of the initial investment, right? When you say, hey, let's do half now, half later. If it doesn't work, we can always switch back, right? That's a great approach. And are these devices, would you consider them basic, advanced? Do you need power?
Basic, yeah.
Okay, great. Awesome. Couple more questions, and then we can jump right to the fun stuff, which is the amount of savings, okay? First, how many unique end users will share each frontline device?
We have about 50 that would probably share.
No, that's awesome. I'm glad you're able to, you know, take advantage of, you know, the Chrome OS's shareability in Chrome Enterprise, right? I mean, that's one of the biggest value adds of these devices is how well they're shared between others. Things like the managed guest session that runs in ephemeral mode. And so if you can share devices, right, and it's not one-to-one for every employee, that's a big cost saving. So I know that's something your executive team is going to like. We kind of talked about this earlier. Knowledge worker PC is going to be replaced by Chromebooks, same amount, about 250.
Yes.
Okay, and these are basic use as well, not power advanced.
Basic.
Okay. And then, okay, this is a great question. What percentage of these Chromebooks will run virtualized desktops for Windows functionality?
Probably about 10% would do that.
10? Okay. Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's really cool, you know. I mean, we don't want to be ignorant to the fact to think that our devices can do everything. I mean, we're quickly, you know, doing away with every excuse you have of why you can't use a Chromebook. But for, you know, some of these beefier applications that maybe you need something a beefier machine, Chromebooks can also run virtualization, right? And run through Parallels the Windows desktop right on a Chromebook. So really taking away every excuse to use a Chromebook. And, you know, just at the bottom, we're not going to go into this right now, but one thing that I want you to see is there's some other advanced things. If you really want to get into the details with your executive team, you could go through productivity software. You can go through time spent, hours. I mean, it gets super granular to where you can really make the best decision for your company. So we'll go ahead and click this. And boom, right at the top, you'll see over the next 3 years after your initial investment, you're going to save $2,351,521.
That's excellent.
Right, big number, and even better than that, 320% total return on investment.
My team's gonna love those numbers.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good bet. No one is gonna, you know, sneeze at 320% return on investment. So it might be a little bit of a cost up front, but really over 3 years, you're getting that return on investment that is huge. And here's the deal: this is only with rolling out to half of your company. So if you do this again, that's gonna double. Right, so I think this is a great use case. There's ways here that you can email this to yourself. You can take before your executive team and really have this conversation with them. Because really what we want to do is we want to provide you with all the information, right? We don't want you to have questions. We don't want you to be in a place where you feel unsure about pitching this to your executive team or to the people that's going to be using them. We want to make sure you feel well equipped to paint the whole picture of really what Google can do for your workforce, what Google can do in your business.
Yeah, well, we're really excited. This was super helpful. I'm excited to take these numbers back to our team and look at that a little bit further. So thank you so much.
Sounds good. Thank you. Have a good one, Jane.
Thanks. You too. Bye.
Awesome. So that was session 2, specifically about Chrome Enterprise, about this idea of the key that unlocks the power of a Chrome OS device. So that being said, what we're actually going to do is we are going to pitch it to our friend Kyle Candler for a little breakout session. Kyle, we call him the big guns. He's the guy that we bring in for all the technical needs. He's the guy that when things go way over my head, which is very often, Kyle's the backstop. You know, he catches it and makes sure he keeps things in line. So he is going to actually share his screen and give you guys more of an in-depth tour of the admin console. And please, if you have, you know, any questions about this or want to see anything specific, go ahead and put it in chat, because we would love to be able to kind of answer those as he's going through. But also, if you need to take a break, this is a great time, kind of outside of the huge chunks of content. Take a quick break and tune into Kyle, like I said, the expert.
Well, that's a high bar, hype man. I appreciate that. Thanks for having me on. Thanks everybody for being here. Please, as Chris said, feel free to ask any questions that come up. I don't want to get too much in the weeds on this, but I do want to give you an idea of how easy it is to manage the services that we're talking about, both Workspace and Chrome. So I'm going to share my screen with you guys, and we'll jump in. So the first thing to know is the address is admin.google.com. So this is actually a differentiator from a lot of other offerings out there, I think. The one thing to understand is that Google was born as a cloud product. It was always born with cloud architecture. So it was never made for a server to be distributed to clients. It was always made for this cloud model. And so that's, I think that's a big advantage, because everything, as we know, is kind of moving more and more towards the cloud. So the great thing is you've got one spot. As long as you have internet access, you can access and control your organization. And that's a pretty powerful thing. You can be on the other side of the world. I've done this before. I'm traveling, actually manage it for our team. You can add users from your phone. It's a really, really cool concept to be able to manage everything from wherever you are. So admin.google.com gets you there. This is the same admin console that you're going to use for the Chrome upgrades and the Workspace licenses as well. And Chris, just to clarify, you guys have talked about both products?
You're right in between. We haven't talked completely about Workspace. We have talked about Chrome Enterprise, so we're kind of right in the middle section, which means this can play well with both, which is great.
Perfect. Well, I'll start with Chrome, since you guys have talked about that, and then I will just go very briefly into how we would manage the Workspace environment. Again, what's really cool is it's done from the same place, so you don't have to manage from different consoles. So the first thing you'll see is this welcome screen, and this gives you a great overview of the things that you can do. It puts in, this is a relatively new interface. They made some enhancements a few months ago. I think it's much easier to use now because they put the most common functions up top and the big ones here. So this is where we can add users. We can do everything we need to do there. The domains, which everything hinges on the domain, because that's where the licenses are placed on your company's domain. And then billing, I did see a question when I jumped in about how do you know what we have? And this is a great view for the admin to come in and see what your company has, what types of licenses. So if you go to manage subscriptions, and again, this is ours internally, this is a live environment that we use, but it shows what we subscribe to and how many we have. So we have 30 of these Chrome Enterprise upgrades. We actually use it for digital signage in our distribution facilities all across the country. So that's how we manage the messaging and the devices that display those messages in the warehouse with Chrome OS, Chrome boxes actually. So that I can look there and see that's what we have. Cloud identity is something pretty cool, but we're not going to talk about that. And then workspace. And then we have this many workspace. We have 50 and we have 48 assigned and 2 available. So it's a really good starting place to understand what you have. That's a great place to go just to answer some quick questions there. Then we'll get into groups. Groups are ways, and that's really going to come into play more with Workspace because you can kind of create shared mailboxes that way. That's kind of a different conversation for a different day, but you don't have to have separate licenses for separate mailbox when you use it that way. You can create groups and assign people you want to be a part of that group, and they'll get emails when it goes to that alias address, which is a pretty neat feature. This is apps is where we manage the applications for Workspace. And then devices. This is where we manage the Chrome upgrades. And I'm going to start here. When we click into the devices, we'll go directly into the Chrome device management. And here's another little tip, little trick to use when you're actually using these Chrome upgrades. This takes me directly to a list of all my devices that we have enrolled in our organization. I can click into these individual devices and get some very granular, detailed information. So that's a good thing to know. It shows last time they connected, last time they got updated, all that kind of good stuff. Tells me where they are. This is all happening when I enroll these devices. It grabs their serial number if we want to put an asset ID to help identify it. And then this organizational unit. This is going to be key as well. It's not a new concept. It's pretty universal, I think. But this is how we would assign different use cases. So you can see we have it set up here, our digital signage organizational unit, and then underneath that, we have one for each of our locations. Well, each location can have separate settings. Maybe we want these devices to do different things in those locations. If you're a school, maybe you want your teachers to have certain abilities and your students to have different capabilities. If you're a corporation, maybe you want marketing to have different functionality than the accounting department does. And this is how we accomplish this with organizational units. You just set it up, and then whenever I click into an organization, when I'm on that organizational unit, I can change the settings. So I'll show you that briefly here. The thing to understand about the console is it allows me to make both user settings. So understand, and this is all pertaining to the Chrome upgrades at this point, but it allows me to make user settings. That means if I have a user in my organization and they have credentials and they log in with those credentials for my organization, when they log into one of these devices, anything that I set up under this user and browser setting page is going to apply no matter what device they're using. My children both use Chromebooks in schools. Their schools have obviously given them accounts. They can log into my Chromebook at home with their account, and they're in that controlled environment that the IT administrator set up for them at their school. So it's a pretty broad way to control what your users can and can't do. So that's a neat little thing. Again, not going to go through all of these. I don't want to bore you guys to death with this, but this is where you have the ability to load applications. So in the old world of imaging devices, this is a little bit different. It's a little bit refreshing to me and how you actually do this. I'll show you real quickly what that looks like. If I wanted to add an application to these users, and again, remember this is organizational unit based. So if I had a different need for the Google team, I would click on that page and I would come here and add. And we have the ability to add applications from a few different ways. One is I can just put in a URL of an application, a web app that I want to use. This is the extension or ID. A lot of times you'll see this with the virtualization like Citrix. You'll have an ID that you can plug in there. But these are the two main ways. I can add applications from the Google Play Store. So anything in the Google Play Store, which are Android apps for the most part, will now work on Chromebooks as of about a year ago. So tons and tons of choices there that I can use from my organization. And then this last one is the Chrome Web Store. So I can add applications, and as long as I'm clicked on an organizational unit, anything I do here will apply to devices that are in that organizational unit. So think about that. From the next step, I have to add another device. I get a new team member in the Google team, and I give them a device. When I enroll that device and I put it in the Google team organizational unit, it automatically inherits all of these applications. The first time they boot it up, they have the environment that I've set up as an administrator that is specific to that Google Teams needs. So it's a very, very simple way to image devices. We're just setting them up and rolling them and moving them to an organizational unit. So it's a very, very simple process. The cool thing about this too is I have the ability to control how these applications are installed. I can allow an install, but I can also force install so that it's going to be there regardless. And I can force install it and pin it to their browser toolbar. So it's always going to be there when they open it up. I don't like this block being here. I can come up to allow users to install all other apps and extensions and say, if I want these three to be the only applications that my users will have access to, I just come in and say, block all other apps and extensions. That way there's nothing else they can do. They're locked into the ones that you give them. So tons and tons of flexibility there. That's apps and applications. I'll go back in and continue kind of where we left off here. Those are user settings. Now I can move to device settings, and as the name implies here, when I'm clicked here, again, a device can be in an organizational unit, so can a user. So remember that we can put users in organizational units and devices. When I'm working in the device settings, these are going to be specific to the device. So no matter who logs into this device, these settings are going to apply. The first one I'll mention, and this one is huge and kind of universal now, and it's this re-enrollment. Google's pretty smart because they roll these devices out to schools, which is one of the greatest test beds I think you can imagine. Because if anybody can figure out how to break things or get around the rules, it's going to be students. They're going to be the first ones to figure out ways to cheat the system. So they've kind of built this in as they went to their settings, which I think has really made this a much more viable solution for enterprises. Again, as more and more applications are going to be cloud-based, man, what an easy way to control your devices for your employees. So this forced re-enrollment it comes from the experience of students saying, hey, if I can power wash this device, if I can wipe it to its original factory default, then I can do whatever I want and get outside of those restrictions that my school has set up for me in this case. What forced re-enrollment does, it says, nope, can't do that, because anybody can figure out how to power wash because it's on Google, and that's where you would find out how to do it. But they can go and power wash, and if this setting is enacted, if I have it forced to automatically re-enroll, when that device boots back up, it automatically re-enrolls back in your organization. So they can't use these devices outside of the control that your administration has put together. So that's a really powerful one. Again, I'm not going to talk about all these other ones. I think there's close to 250 different settings now that you can apply to these devices. And then the last one is kind of a unique setting. I love this. It's a managed guest session. This is really, really good for shared devices. A lot of times you'll see this in library settings. Used to be in hotels, they would have these kiosks where you could print out your plane tickets and do those kind of things. Well, the problem with that is you could always see what the people before you were doing. This managed guest session is so, I think it's perfectly tailored towards this shared use scenario. And I'll give you an example of that. Worked with a customer one time. It was Ted Turner. If you guys know Ted Turner, CNN, he's one of the largest property owners in the world, and he has a bunch of different ranches. And so each ranch had property managers. Oh, never mind. I'm sorry. I thought y'all couldn't hear. I just got a message that said nobody could hear my presentation.
We can hear you.
We still good? We still good?
We can hear you.
I just got a pop-up. I didn't know what that meant. That was weird. All right. Okay. So Ted Turner, they had ranch managers. They had property managers in each one. And he said, listen, I'm looking for a way that I want to give these property managers access to three things. I want them to be able to access our HR system, to see payroll, and check their email. And that's really all I want them to be able to do. But they're going to be shared because there's three property managers who rotate at each of these properties around the world. And I don't want them to be able to see anything from anybody else's account. And I need that guarantee that that's not going to happen. Well, that's a perfect use case for this managed guest session. What happens there is I control everything as an administrator, and I set up everything I want them to do. And in this case, he didn't even want them to have access to the internet. So you can go in and under URLs and block everything and then build back in. Where was that? You would go back in and allow the other things. URL blocking. So I could put, I want to block absolutely everything. And then under the exceptions, I would go back in and add the URLs that I wanted them to be able to access. And then everything's blocked and they're only allowed to see those apps. So that's what I mean when you have complete control over what a user can do here. And in this case, we just basically allowed the HR system website, their email that they were using, and their payroll. And so those were the only things that they could access. Well, they'd have to log in, and that's fine. And so they would access that, log into those. But once that session was over, once the user logged out, or I could also set up a time that that session was valid and say after such and such amount of time, then you log out of the session. And once that session is over, everything's gone. So all data, everything is wiped from the device. They have access to nothing that anyone before them has accessed. So really, really strong case, shared use case is perfect for this managed guest session. All right, that is Chrome. I'm going to take a breath here. Does anybody have any questions on what you've seen there? And I'll briefly jump into what Workspace does and how you can manage that before the team talks about what Workspace is overall. Any questions? All right, cool. Okay, so we'll go back into the main screen here. And again, everything kind of focuses around users. This is how we're setting up credentials. I can add users here just by going to this page and saying, add a new user. And when I do that, it's a very simple way. It'll come up and say, at some point, it'll come up and say, hey, here's how you add a new user, email them with their credentials, and they're up and running, they're set up. That's one way to do it. I can also bulk update users. That would give me a template of the spreadsheet, and it gives me the format, and I can just populate all that information there and create users that way. And I can also do, I can sync. So if I'm using something else, if I'm using Active Directory for credentials, I can actually sync our system here with Active Directory, where it's going to push over everything that you're using to the Google console. I have the ability to do that. I also have the ability to set up single sign-on. So if you're using a third party, using somebody like Okta or something like that, you have the ability to set up single sign-on with Google. You make your provider the provider, and then you sync it here, and they can use those same credentials to access these Google services. So that's from a user standpoint. I'll jump in quickly here to the apps. I know we haven't really talked about it yet, but Google Workspace, this is kind of unique, and I like this setting. Again, keep in mind, everything hinges on these organizational units, right? So let's say you have a group of users that are never going to access chat, or you never want them to use Google Meet. What's really cool is I could click on that team or that organizational unit, and I could go here and actually turn that off. Well, I can't from that one. I have the ability to turn it off so that users in that organizational unit do not have access to whatever services I choose. By default, they have access to everything, but you have the ability to turn them off. So that's kind of high level, and then we can jump in and click down on each of these to go into the specific settings. So if I need to set up my email, this is where all that is done. So again, very high level, but the biggest point I want to emphasize is, number one, this is an entirely cloud-based architecture. It was born in the cloud. It was made for the cloud. And number two, I have the ability to manage my company's Google services, be that Chrome Enterprise upgrades or the Workspace accounts, from this one single pane of glass from wherever I have an internet connection. So I think those are the biggest things I wanted you guys to get out of that. Any questions on that? Chris, Gabrielle, anything you guys have? Did I cover what you needed me to?
I was just laughing because you were hovering over disabling Google Meet for the Google team, and I was like, I'm in that organizational unit. If he like uses that as an example, is it just going to like completely kick me out? Like what's
Cut you
about
off.
to happen right here?
I wouldn't dare. I wouldn't dare.
No, Kyle, I think that was perfect. Thank you for hopping on and showing us that view. And I think one of the coolest things, like you said, is that Chrome and Google Workspace are all managed within this admin.google.com login. And I think that that's one of the greatest strengths. I think it's something that really sets Google apart, and it also brings that Chrome and cloud piece together really nicely. So that it allows everybody to manage it. And then one other thing I would just add is that you can have multiple admins. So it doesn't have to just be on that one person, and they can have different sorts of admin roles and rights and everything else. So it is super, super customizable for how your organization, your company needs it. And you can even have Wursta be an admin on your account if needed. There's tons of flexibility there. So just want to reemphasize that. But thank you so much, Kyle. That was excellent.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Yep. So now, if David or Emily, if one of you doesn't mind sharing their screen again, I think it's slide 11 is going to be our final portion of today. We are going to jump into the Google Workspace piece, which is my favorite piece because it's my expertise. But really what we've been able to go through is the Chrome OS and then our Chrome Enterprise licenses. So a lot of the foundation of Google here. But what we're going to look at with Google Workspace is how we actually get this work done. So we can go ahead and start that.
It's loading as we speak here.
And I think the video's on mute too, Dave.
Third installment of Chrome Cloud and Coffee. As you
Thank
can see,
you
my
for
coffee is dwindling, and so is the time that we have shared with you guys. It's been fun so far. This is valuable. So now that we've covered Chrome OS, we've covered Chrome Enterprise, Gabrielle is really going to share with us more about the cloud aspect of today. So speaking, what is Google Workspace in a nutshell?
Yeah, that is an excellent question. So Google Workspace is Google's productivity solution that they have for all businesses and organizations.
Yep.
So it's probably very familiar to you and you may not even know it. Google Workspace it's Gmail, Docs, Sheets, Slides, all of those applications in one solution for businesses to use. So a lot of people are very familiar with it in their personal life and just don't know that it's available for their business or organizations to be using. But yeah, it's just that full productivity suite that businesses can use to get work done.
Yeah, that's awesome. I've been using Google Docs and Sheets for years, right? And who knew that it can actually be used in a business, right? That's so cool. You know, I know we talked with Chrome OS that they have over 9 apps with 1 billion users, and these applications are part of Workspace, right? That's really cool.
Yeah.
So give me a little insight. What are the advantages in using Workspace over something like a competitor's productivity suite?
Yeah, no, that's an excellent question. So like I said, Google Workspace has a lot of applications in one. So it's going to be, you have Gmail, you have Docs, Sheets, and Slides to be able to collaborate and work on. You have Google Meet to be able to communicate with and chat as well. So you have everything you need to communicate, to collaborate, and to connect with others. And then there's a lot of advantages with using Google Workspace over the competitors. The 3 main ones of like families of advantages, I would say, are going to be it's a flexible solution, it's a helpful solution, and it's a simple solution. Those seem like just like very small, easy words, but they're actually really powerful if you think about something in technology working this way.
Yeah, no, I love that. I love the idea of something being flexible, being helpful, being simple. I think that is what technology has missed the mark on for years, right? These complex things that are hard to adopt, that are hard to start using. So I would love to hear a little bit more about each of those pillars, each of those families, like you called them. Tell me a little bit about some of the key advantages inside of those.
Yeah, so we can start with why Google Workspace is a flexible solution. A couple key things I always call out is the fact that you can work on Google Workspace from anywhere, like literally anywhere. Yep. You can work on it from your phone, you can work on it from your laptop, your desktop. It's limitless. You're really, unless you're trying to use pen and paper, like you can get to it. Another great aspect about that is that you can make documents and sheets and slides, whatever you're creating on within Google Workspace. You can turn that to be offline. So if you know you're going to be going on a long car ride, I'm guilty, I've done this before, and you need to work on something on the car ride. Yes, you don't have to have internet connection to actually work on these things. So I think that's another thing that people can be surprised to learn sometimes, is that you do have the option to work offline, even though everything is in the cloud. And the next time you connect to the internet, it all syncs back up and everything is saved. Another great thing is that there is no save button with Google Workspace. When you're creating doc sheets and slides, it's literally saved me so many times. You do not have to save anything. It's all automatically saved. It's all going to be there in your Google Drive when you go back to it. And then again, collaboration is like Google has built, they've put their stake in the ground on this. They are the best at collaboration. I'm sure solution very flexible that Chris and I at the same time can be working on a document. He doesn't have to wait for me to work through it, save it, email it over, him work on it, save it, send it back to me. We can both be in there at the same exact time, and it is true real-time collaboration. There is like zero lag. It's all happening at once, which is really incredible.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. Another thing about Google Workspace is that it's helpful. This is something else that I think is everybody knows and has and takes advantage of without fully knowing about it sometimes with Google Workspace. So they have features like their search features and their AI that's built into the platform that companies and organizations on Google Workspace are probably using without even realizing like how helpful that is, because we're so used to it now. But if you think about it, Google Workspace is built with the same artificial intelligence that Google has built its search engine and its company on. So to put that in a business setting is incredibly powerful, really huge for any business needing to use it. So you can go into your search bar, you can go into Cloud Search or your Google Drive, and if all you can remember is, I have a document in here, it's 2 years old, I do not remember what it's titled, but I know I wrote this one specific sentence in it, or even down to a word. Maybe don't type the, but if you have something like really specific, you can search that and it's going to find the document for you. Again, that has saved me multiple times because we don't always remember the title of the things that we save.
Yeah, I wish I had that for my brain just in general, you know what I mean?
Oh my gosh, that would
Saved me
be
so many times.
So helpful. Yeah, so very, very helpful. Another thing I want to call out is the explore feature and like smart suggestion features. So Google is always looking at what you have, whatever you're creating, whether it's within a sheet, a slide deck, a document, and they're looking for how can we help you make this better. So they're going to give you visual suggestions, especially if you were in slide decks. It's going to give you so many suggestions of how to just format the slide deck to make it visually appealing, or make anything that's super data-driven or analytical make sense visually on the screen. Another thing with the Explore feature in Sheets, this is probably my favorite thing I've ever learned about Google Workspace, and then Sheets particularly, is if you hit that Explore feature, it's in the bottom right corner of the sheet. It's going to pop up pivot table suggestions and all sorts of other suggestions on how to make data make sense. It's really incredible. I wish that I knew about it when I was in school and could have really impressed some professors back in the day, but didn't know about it then. So it's going to give you a lot of suggestions on how to organize data, as well as you can search using natural language in the Explore feature a question about your data, and it's going to give you the answer, and it's going to give you the formula that found that answer, which you can then copy and paste into a sheet. Again, another really good way to impress people. They don't have to know that you just asked a question in natural language into a search bar to get that formula. They can think you're a genius that figured the equation out. So very, very helpful in so many ways. And then again, in Docs, it's obviously going to give you all of those grammar and spelling suggestions, or even in Gmail, Smart Compose suggestions now is a huge thing that I take advantage of, and it adapts to your natural language and how you type over time, which is really, really cool.
Yeah, that is awesome.
Yeah, it's so helpful. So the last thing I want to hit on in these families of the benefits of Google Workspace is going to be that it's simple. Again, something that I think is really underrated in the technology industry, but
Take it
so
for
important.
granted. Yep.
Yes. Because if you think about it, all of you that are going to be using Google Workspace, we may not all be tech geniuses, but we're the ones using it. And to be able to figure things out on our own, excuse me, or not take up IT's time on a task that could be really simple is huge in cost savings and time savings for a company. So one thing I really want to highlight is that Google Workspace was made from the cloud for the cloud. It was never not a cloud-based solution, which means it's going to be the most beneficial for those working in the cloud. It was not taken from an old legacy version and adapted. And I think that that's huge. Another thing that I would just want to call out again is their collaboration and search features. Incredibly simple. Nothing really ever goes wrong with that. They have billions of users on Google Workspace today is another thing that I think is so important is there's over like 2 billion users just today using Google Workspace apps, which means anyone can figure it out. If you think about it, Google Workspace, formerly called G Suite, started in the classroom. So if students can use it and do their schoolwork from it, surely all of us as adults working in different businesses can figure it out and use it for our businesses as well. They want to make sure that it's simple and usable for everyone. And then again, that we don't have to rely on our IT departments to figure everything out. It's going to save a lot of time and a lot of money in the long run when we as users feel that the platform we're working on is simple enough for us to figure out and use and manage.
Yeah, I love that. I think there's so many benefits from using Workspace. I know for me, I have conversations all the time of people that, in their workplace, they're using Outlook or they're using, another type of email client, right? And I ask them like, well, what do you have for your personal email address? And everybody says Gmail, right? Because they love it. They love Gmail. And so I'm like, well, that can work. Like if you're using it there and you really like the feature set and you like what you can do with your personal email, you can kind of expand that to go to your whole business, right? But man, I think that is really cool just to hear about all the features. And honestly, it's a bit overwhelming. It's good to be overwhelmed with things that can make your business run more productively and efficiently. But one thing I would love to hear is, what if maybe someone isn't, gung-ho, they want all the bells and whistles, are there maybe some tiers, maybe some kind of different levels at the ways they can interact and start with Workspace before going into the full picture?
Yeah, so there are 5 key SKUs or levels per se for Google Workspace. You're going to have the business family, which is Business Starter, Business Standard, Business Plus, and then the enterprise family of Enterprise Standard and Enterprise Plus. So anyone can be on the enterprise SKUs, but if it is a business with 300 users or more, then they're automatically have to choose between the enterprise SKUs. If they're a small to medium-sized business, typically like Business Starter, Business Standard, or Business Plus does the job. So there's a few key differences that I can call out. Business Starter is just going to be the very basic level. You're going to get all the collaboration tools. You're going to get Google Meet. You're going to get Google Drive. You're going to have access to manage it through the admin console, which call out on that. The admin console, if you have Chrome Enterprise and Google Workspace, it's the same exact admin console.
So easy.
Again, making things simple, helpful, so easy for you guys. So you get everything that you need with Business Starter. It has more limited storage. You can't have as many users on Google Meet, but for a small business, it's the perfect solution. And then as you move up to Business Standard, you get to add more users to your Google Meet calls. You get a little bit more storage for Google Drive. And then once you get to Business Plus, you really start getting some of those higher level benefits. You're going to get Google Vault, which is Google's e-discovery and archiving feature. So any business that has any sort of compliances that they have to stay within, they need to be on Business Plus or higher. Business Plus, you get more features for Google Meet to make it just more advanced, like recording and different things like that. And then as you go on to Enterprise Standard and Enterprise Plus, you get as much storage as you need. You get more users again on Google Meet. and you begin to get things like data loss prevention and a lot of other security tools. So I want to call out that Google Workspace is a very secure solution. It blocks 99.9% of all spam emails. I've used different email platforms before, and I think Gmail is the only one that gets to claim that. Like, it is
true.
very good, very secure. And if you think about it, they're using the same infrastructure that Google runs their business on, which is insanely secure. So businesses can trust that they're going to be secure with Google Workspace. But once you get up to those enterprise levels, you do get that full security stack. You do get that full control over every little nitty-gritty setting that you need. So those are some of the key differences in the different SKUs, and something that we can definitely have further conversations on.
That's so cool. I think it's so cool to see that there's an entry-level option. There are options for enterprises, like really whatever you need, there's a solution that can work for your company. That is really, really awesome and really helpful for, I'm sure, anybody listening that's thinking about a transition that's, maybe has the personal Gmail address and is using a outdated productivity suite that really isn't working for their organization, that's slowing them down when they could be moving forward, right? That's really awesome to hear all that. But all that being said, it is time for Customer of the Week. It is our last one, and as you can see, coffee's done. It's not going to last much longer, and so we're going to hop in with John and Jane and hear what they have to say specific about Google Workspace. Well, hey, Jane, I heard some good news about your company, that there maybe was a Google adoption that you guys took on.
Yes. Hello, John. It's good to see you again. And we are loving the Chromebooks. We're so glad that we went Chrome on this transition. We've had a lot of good feedback so far.
Good. That's amazing. I mean, that's music to our ears, right? I'm glad that more than anything, you guys found a solution that works for what you do. It works for your daily workflow. It works to make, things more lean, efficient, productive. That's always good to hear. So what do I have the honor of talking to you about today?
Yeah, so like I said, we're loving our Google adoption. We've had so much good feedback, and we've started this discussion about possibly transitioning over to Google Workspace as well.
Okay.
Just keep everything under the same umbrella, simplicity's sake. We can manage it all from the admin console. So heard a lot of good things there. Again, our executive team sees a lot of the benefits, but we're kind of coming back to that cost and price scenario again of how do we see this going forward.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. That's great to hear, because honestly, these solutions were all designed with the cloud in mind, right, and work seamlessly together. So I think it's the natural progression of things that once you're using Chrome OS devices, you're using Chrome Enterprise to start thinking of like, hey, what else can we use? We've seen the benefits of this business, the amount of money that we've saved in initial investment. What's next, right?
Yeah.
Google Workspace. Cool. Yeah, so, we actually have another tool. It's called the Business Value Calculator. It's very similar to the Total Cost of Ownership Calculator. So maybe different questions than I asked you before. And really, if you want, we can just go through that and really hammer out maybe some things you could take for your executive team and show them on paper how much money you're saved. Sound good?
Yeah, that sounds great.
Okay, awesome. So like I said, same format, a little bit of a questionnaire. You're going to see some fun things pop up in between these slides. It's going to do some calculating for you. It's going to be really fast, but we'll try to hit it. But really, let's see how much money you can save using Google Workspace. So first off, you still at 500 people in your company?
Yep, 500.
Okay. Awesome, Jane. And how many servers do you guys use right now? Do y'all have any on-prem servers?
So we have about 10 left that we're trying to get rid of.
Awesome. Yeah, moving to the cloud. That's the way technology is going, right? So it's good to hear you guys are all about the cloud adoption. Okay, let's go ahead and see. Okay, team of 500 people could boost efficiency by 57,000 hours. Time is money, so that's something that sounds good just right off the bat. Annual revenue, I know you guys said about 25 million last time.
Yep, 25 million.
Okay, and profit margin, where do you kind of guys lie approximately?
So we get about 15% for profit margin.
Great, that's awesome. All right, you could gain almost $100,000 in additional profits each year.
That's also excellent. Great number.
That's a great result, right? Couple more questions and then we'll be at the end. Okay, what's your yearly employee growth?
About 5% growth every year.
Awesome. And what about revenue growth? What are you guys seeing there?
We are seeing 3% revenue growth.
Okay, awesome. Well, let's go ahead and tally it up. 3-year return, 258%. That is amazing. You love that. So you can see an impact in your business of $5 million, right? And this is going to kind of show you a little bit of how those things are broken out, right? So we can empower your team, and you're going to drive $4 million in estimated value with Google Workspace. And this is kind of a quick chart just to see the way everything's split out. You know, you have profit growth categories, employee efficiency, risk mitigation, IT cost savings, and then you see the total amount of savings. This is something, you know, I know visuals are really huge in data, so this is something your executive team is going to love. We don't have to go in super amount of detail about that, but one thing I did want to show you are these things right here. And that's, you can see a potential increase in revenue of $2 million over the next 3 years. Right?
That's huge.
A lot of money paired on what you already saved with Chrome Enterprise. That's a profitable business. You see an increase of $300,000 your bottom line over the next 3 years.
These are great numbers.
Everyone's trying to grow that profit number, right? Top line's great, but profit's what helps you reinvest in the business. And so, yeah, I mean, I think this is something that's great. If you'll see right here, there's a place that you can fill out this form right here, get it sent right to you, a detailed report. So you don't even have to put together anything to take before your executive team. You can just go with them, print this out, hand it to them, email them, however they want to receive this information, and really put it in their hands. Because one thing I want to tell you is, you know, you've seen a lot of value in your transition already, and I think nothing else, but you're going to see the same amount of value happen with this workspace transition.
Yeah, this is really exciting, and these numbers, those were huge. That's super great to think that just a small change like what we're doing our everyday work on can save so much time and money right off the bat. So excited to take that back to our team, and I appreciate your time.
Yeah, definitely, Jane. I remember, you know, the first time we talked, you forgot to come off mute, right? And it's fun to see this relationship grow and your business grow into a Google house over the last couple of months. You know, I've been excited to work with you, and if I can ever do anything for you in the future, please let me know.
Come a long way. I appreciate it. Thank you, John.
Yep. Thanks, Jane. Bye.
Awesome. Thank you, David, for sharing that. So that is the end of our pre-recorded videos. And now we wanted to go into a little bit of a Q&A time and then next steps for each of you, which Wursta will be able to cover. But before we get there, I wanted to know whether it's Chrome OS, the Chrome Enterprise license, or Google Workspace. If you guys have any specific questions, you can throw them in chat. If you don't want to come off mute, you can also come off mute and ask your questions here, and we will answer them for you. I know that we've had some questions going along through the chat also.
Yeah, I do see one question in the chat, and that's from Shelly. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Forgive me if I'm not. But nonprofit pricing, yes, there is a nonprofit difference with Google Chrome in the MSRP price. There is a discount in Workspace. There is actually, if you do Workspace in general with just regular nonprofit, it's actually free, the same as it is for educations. But there are, you know, the same as in the education space, you can kind of up the things that you get, and that goes into different tiers of pricing that is separate than traditional Workspace. So that is an option. That's something that, you know, we'll get the people at Wursta to connect you with their account executive to really make sure that you have the exact pricing, things like that, if you're interested in that.
Awesome. Well, if we don't have any other questions, I will just remind you, when you hear Google, think it's simple, it's fast, it's helpful, no matter if you are working on a portion of the solution, whether it's just that Chrome piece, just the Workspace piece, all together, it's going to be the most beautiful, fast, helpful solution for you. So we hope that you've taken that away today, and I will hand it back over to the Wursta team to wrap things up. But want to say thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for participating in the chat and making this fun.
Yeah, thanks, guys. We really appreciate you joining us and walking us through this presentation. You know, as far as next steps coming out of this, Wursta will be reaching out to you guys to schedule a debrief. If you have any additional questions, we'll answer those at those time, and also connect you with your Wursta rep so you know who you should be chatting with if you do have questions in the future. I also encourage you to check out our YouTube channel. We do have a lot of great videos there on everything from how to use. I think I put the Google Groups, context aware, app sheet. So we do have a lot of great resources there on our YouTube channel. I'll put that in the chat here. And also, please send us your feedback. We'll be sharing out a survey, an event survey after this in our event follow-up. So please feel free to tell us how we did and how we could do better. And we'd love to have your feedback. Additionally, this has been recorded, and we will be sharing out the recording as well in our follow-up post-event. And thank you, Emily. She also put a link to the survey in the chat. So if you could take a minute, you could open it right there. You only have to wait for tomorrow to do that. But I want to thank you guys for attending. Thanks, Signage, for joining us and helping present some great information. And thanks to the Wursta team for setting all this up and hosting it. So happy Thursday, everybody. We'll see you on the next one.
Thanks, everybody.
for joining, everybody.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.